This month's book is Beyond the Grave by Jeff Condon, subtitled The Right Way and the Wrong Way of Leaving Money to Your Children and Others. Now, I can say with confidence that this is not your favorite subject, but it's so important, especially if you care about your children and your legacy. Beyond the Grave touches upon so many important topics like preventing family conflict among your children, dividing non-cash assets, shielding wealth from problem children, preventing wealth from being split if one of your children later gets divorced, avoiding probate, and a whole lot more. This book is not a dry technical guide on how to draft wills and living trusts. Instead, it's filled with stories about estate plans that failed to protect wealth, maintain family harmony, and minimize taxes, among other things. Each story is followed by advice on how to avoid these failures in your own estate plan. Okay, I couldn't narrow it down to one takeaway, so you get a bonus takeaway this month. And the first one is this: if you have a situation in which one of your children is not as prosperous as your other child or children, you should think very hard before deciding to leave more wealth to the needier child. And I can see how this could make sense, and you could even further justify it by requesting feedback from your financially secure children about this dilemma. And your other children may not share openly that they don't like this plan, but instead may say, hey, it's your money, do what you want, but be very careful. The author of this book even has a name for this response that you'd likely get from your more prosperous children. He calls it a beautiful gesture. Unequal distributions often lead to resentment and family strife. If your children celebrate Thanksgiving together during your lifetime, wouldn't it be nice to structure a fair plan that doesn't jeopardize that tradition once you're gone? The second takeaway is this: consider that you might have a problem child. Now, bear with me. I want to share an excerpt from the book.
Over 90% of my clients have never once considered the need to protect the family money once it is inherited by their child. Why? Because, as the typical client says to me, Mr. Condon, I have no problem children. In fact, my children are perfect. I see no reason why they should not receive their inheritance free and clear when I die. Years ago, when I was a younger attorney, I readily accepted this opinion without question. Clients, I assumed, knew their children better than I did. However, as clients died, I saw the reality of what happens when their perfect children received an outright inheritance. With alarming frequency, my clients' money and property ended up in ways they never dreamed. How could they have foreseen their wealth ultimately belonging to their child's creditors, the IRS, the bankruptcy court, their daughter-in-law's new husband, or the crazy cult? I no longer assume my clients' children are perfect, no matter what my clients tell me. I automatically assume every client has a child whose inheritance will be exposed to risk of loss.
This is a bit of a downer, but it's a possibility that at least needs to be considered. That's all. I don't actually encounter this much because most of my clients with attorney-drafted estate plans will have their wealth transferred into one or more testamentary trusts upon their passing. But on occasion, I run into people who assure me they have no concerns about having their wealth passed outright to their children because of their children's strong financial stewardship skills and their lovely spouses. Okay, I want to add a positive spin to this. If your current plan has your wealth funding trust for the benefit of your children upon your passing, and if you have ever felt bad or guilty that this may not be a fair arrangement for your children because it sends a message that you don't trust them, I say you should feel great about your current estate plan. There is certainly no need to feel guilty. So who should read this book? Well, I think you'd have to be a really curious person and an avid reader to go out of your way to read this book. And for that reason, I'm not recommending it to anyone. However, I really enjoyed it as it's relevant to my profession. And I certainly plan to be using it as a resource in cases where it may be appropriate to challenge some of my clients' assumptions, because the chances are the author included an anecdote about whatever those assumptions are and how there is a potential that they could lead to severe negative unintended consequences. All right, that's it. One book, two takeaways. Next up, we have Moby Dick. See you in April.